Hello friends, hello guys, welcome to another exciting episode in our Photoshop design series. In this video I'll be showing you how I created this social media flyer in Photoshop. Of course, like previous videos, it's gonna be simple steps. So I started off with going off to FreePic, and this was what I searched for: young teen sitting on the floor pressing laptop. When you're searching, needs to be specific, right? So if you're not using FreePic at this moment, you're losing in big on it. So this is the image. So instead of going to download, FreePic now has this option that you can use to remove a background. Easy peasy, right? So it makes things very easy for us. So I clicked on it and I downloaded it without a background. I went on to search for the next one, which was white social media icons. Then I got this pack instead, and I also downloaded it, right? Just like this. You can see it's in PSD. Make sure what you're downloading is in PSD or a JPEG file, or rather I recommend it's in PSD. So let's jump into our Photoshop and click on new, and in case I forget, if you have not subscribed, kindly hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you miss any video I'll be dropping anytime from now. Okay, so let's get on with this. So I'm just going to give it a name, Think Smart, like this, and 5x5 resolution stays at 300 like usual. And instead of using white as background, I'm just going to use transparent. So I would be the one to determine what kind of background I want to use, set myself. I haven't done all of that. Just go on and click on create like this. All right. So now this is our Photoshop interface, right? So you can see now I have this color here, right? So I'm just going to revert it by pressing D on the keyboard and toggle between the two colors by clicking on that arrow there, right? So we have it empty like this. So the first thing I want to do is I would bring in the background. Now this is the first element. Now the link to download these guys I'm using, this element, is in the description of this video. Please do well to click on the description, click on the link to download these things from. So I'm just going to drag and drop this inside here, or you can use place embedded if you're using a Windows 11. So I'm just going to put this here. I'm also going to make a duplicate copy of this, right? So I'm just going to let me set the background color first. So I'm just going to click on this, drag this down, drag it below it, and of course I'm going to sample a color from this image I brought in. How am I going to do that? So what you need to do is double click on the thumbnail. The color picker is going to come out, then use your eyedropper to select this color, right? So I'm just going to drag it down. You see the final one I'm going to be using. I might also still change this midway through the design, so you can pause it and use the color code that I used and follow along, right? I'm going to drag this one to the side here, put it here, and I'm going to make a second copy of this. I'm just duplicating it. Ctrl J for duplicate, Ctrl T, and select flip horizontal like this. I'm going to bring this one here. Now if your imagination is as vivid as my own, you would see that this image is looking more like a monster. Look at the head and the eyes and the nose and everything. Well, that's my imagination. You can be seeing a different thing entirely, right? So now that we have this, select the two of them, hold down shift to select, then go over to rasterize layer and right click again, convert to smart object. Great. And when you do this, right click and change back to rasterize layers. Get it? Great. So what you want to do next now, it's a very important step in our design. Right click and click on liquify. Now this is how I make some of my backgrounds I use for my designs. So with the liquify inside, just copy my settings. These are my settings here. Make sure you're using the same setting. You can pause and look at the setting and copy the same thing. Now with your brush, you're just going to doing what I am doing like this. You can increase the size of the brush with your brackets key on your keyboard. The bracket I'm talking about is the ones after the letter P on your keyboard. So you can just do this. You see I'm making my brush bigger. so I can cover more space. Like this, with one click I've gotten most things done. And when you're done with everything, make sure preview is turned on. Click OK. So this is before and this is after, right? Nice. So let's move on. I'm going to change this to overlay, and I'm going to tone down the opacity. Just copy my settings for this, and we'll be sure that we'll both all arrive at the same destination, right? So I'm using 25. I'm just going to select the two of them and convert them to smart object like this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to filter, going to go over to noise, and I'm going to go over to add noise, right? We don't want the noise to be too much depending on what we intend to use it to do. So in this case, what we should do, or what I want you to do, is reduce the amount of noise. No, there are instances that you will need noise and all of that, but in this case you don't need too much of it, you just need a bit of it, right? So just set it like this, and when you're done, click OK. Okay, if you do the right thing, this is the amount of noise you'll be having on this particular image, right? Great. Okay, so having done that, the next thing we're going to be doing is we're going over to our resource file, and we'll just go in and bring in a nice image. You can see the one that I removed the background. I downloaded the two of them. So bring this in like this, and when we bring it in, we're going to make some adjustment to it. But first, I'm going to place it, press enter key, or adjust it first, as the case may be here. Adjust the image like this, right? Not too small, just make sure it's just fine and okay. Right, just like this. Now if you notice, the image is quite flat, like it's just let me increase it a bit. So if you notice, the image is quite flat, no balance of colors, everything is just white, like there's a white floodlights on her, and everything is just so flat, no dark areas, no light areas and everything. So what do we do first? Go over to filter and then click on camera raw. Then when it opens up like this, what you should do first is, I'm going to scroll down here. You've seen me do this in a previous video. Drop down the highlights, and just copy my settings here also, right? And reduce the blacks, and increase the textures like this. You can see how much difference that has made. Let me zoom in, you can see, right? But we're not done yet, so let's continue. I'm going to add a sprinkle of clarity to it, and I'm just going to, what else do I need to do again? Okay, touched all of this, and I'm going to details section, click on details. I'm going to sharpen it. Make sure when you're sharpening your images, you're sharpening it wisely. You're not just sharpening because you want to sharpen it and it becomes too much. So this is before and this is after. This is after. But we're not done yet, we're almost there. So a couple of tweaks here and there and we'll be done. So what you need to do next is go to adjustment layer and click on curves, right? Right click on it and create clipping mask. So the curves is just going to affect only the layer underneath, right? So I'm just going to drag this slider from that point to this point here. Okay, Now what I'm trying to create here is what they call the shine effect. Right click on blending options, and let it load up. So when it loads up like this, what you need to do is on the underlaying layer, drag the slider like this, and when you get to this point where you see minimal shine, hold down the Alt key on your keyboard, and you need to break this up like this, right? So when you break it up, click OK like this, and this is how you get to create shine in images. But now I don't want it to affect everywhere on her, so I'm going to invert the mask by pressing Ctrl I. Go over to my brush, make sure you're using soft round, pressure and opacity and flow, right? And make sure since your mask is black, make sure your foreground color is set to white. Very important, guys. And I'm just going to gently rub on these areas like this, that needs that shine. I'm just going to apply it there. My flow is set to 100 here, right? So it's fine to let your flow 100. So you can even reduce it here when you feel it's too much, right? Great. So I turned it off totally, so I'm putting it back to 100. Okay, so having done that, the next thing you're going to do is select the two of them and press Ctrl G on your keyboard, and I'm going to name this image all caps, please. If you observe, I like arranging my layers and arranging it well, so that in case I want to make any edits, I know exactly which group to go to or where to go to make my adjustments. It's very, very important in Photoshop, because the whole essence of creating in Photoshop starts from your understanding of your layers. If you don't know layers in Photoshop, you would have a hard time working inside Photoshop. That's why most persons shy away from Photoshop, right? So you have this inside now. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create some realistic shadow under this image. So I'm going to go beneath that image, beneath the image, that's the group, which is this. Create a new layer here. Okay. So the next thing you want to do is go over to your pen tool, but this time I'm not using pen tool, we're using the freeform pen tool. Most persons don't know about this pen. So it's called a freeform, so you can just drag, and I'm just going to drag along. Okay, I'm gonna have to start this again. Ctrl Z. I'll zoom out. So I'm trying to use this to create a realistic shadow. So I'm just going to drag along the places I know that I want my shadow to be at, and I'm just going to finish it up like this, and voila, boom, I've created a shape. So you can change the color of this shape to any color of your choice, like this, right? So instead of using your pen tool, you can use your freeform pen tool, right? But make sure it's on shape before you start. So selecting that, go back to blur and go to Gaussian blur, convert to smart object like this, and I'm going to increase the radius to make it more realistic, and I think I'm going to settle for anything around this area like this. Alright, great. Okay, so having done that, let's move on. So I'm going to go to the topmost layer, create a new layer there. I'm going over to my brush, select my eyedropper tool first, and select this color by clicking on my foreground color, right? So with this color, I'm going over to my brush. The size is too much. I can't even find the brush again. It has vanished. So I'm just going to reduce the size of the brush, right, till I have it this way. and I'm just going to slightly do this. Let me change this, select this, yes, select this color, and you can copy the color code. Yes, this, you can pause and copy the color code. So this is what I'm going to be using. So I'm just going to gently conceal those parts, creating a nice blend of this pattern background and first of all, let me adjust this. I'm going over to exposure, and yes, I need something very dark for this. This place has to be very dark. So I'll go up to that top again. I'll sample this color, this one, click OK. So now I'm going to apply that color here. The reason why I did this is so that at the end of everything, if I'm applying my light effect, it's going to look more realistic, right? Great. So directly on top of the image, I'm just going to go over to my text tool, and I'm going to type something very simple. Okay, so this time is going to be think smart. You have to think smart. So Ctrl T, make it smaller so the S and the T doesn't exceed that of the T and the K that you have directly above it. Use your arrow key to move it closer to it so you have little or no space between the think and the smart vertically. Okay, so with this done, select the two of them and bring it down like this. Still selected like this. Let me zoom. I'm using my scroll wheel to zoom. For most of you that have an habit of not using the mouse, well, I don't have anything to say. So what you need to do here is click on smart, click on think, and right click and convert to what? To shape. Right click again, and this time you are merging shapes. So now what you just did is you've converted this think smart to one shape, so you can give the two of them the same color and it maintains the color. So I'm going to use this. That's the color code. You can just pause to copy it. Right? Great. So as you can see now, the image or this whole composition is coming to life. But we still have some few important things to do. So directly under this, create a new layer, right click on it, and this will be a clipping mask on the think smart. So double click on this. I'm going to select this color. Let me move down a bit. Select this color. Right. So what you want to do is select your brush, B for brush. Right. Reduce it with your bracket key and apply the effect here, just like this. Now when you do that, go over to your blend mode, and I know I've passed it. Right, click on dissolve. right? So to create this nice tiny dot lines, I don't even know what that is, right? So for this, right, and create another layer again, but this time I'm going to change it. Select this color like this and change the blend mode to linear dodge add. B for brush, click on your brush, and I'm going to apply it here, rub it in, rub it in, rub it in, rub it in, rub it in to create an extra shine on it, just like this. Moving it up. Okay, I'll just move it up and reduce the opacity like this, and there you go. Apply it to this part also. Okay, good. So having done this, it's almost getting close to have a realistic light effect. Now this flyer is video is a two-in-one video. It's actually creating a flyer and understanding compositioning in design making. Most times when you see designs, is you just look at it as simple, but then there are a whole lot of works. So exposure, I'm going to turn down the exposure. Make sure it's directly on your image. Now we're working on the image now. So turn down the exposure to this part like this, and also the gamma correction, right? You can see now everything is dark, no lights. And now what you want to do is, now that you have done this, we want to work on creating our artificial light now. So how do we do that? But first and foremost, we have to invert this. No, my flow should be very, very small. So I'm just going to be revealing these areas that I want to make slightly bright. All these areas here, because she's in front of the screen. Now I don't want to go in depth and full on composition in this flyer, because it's supposed to be a social media flyer, very easy, or we make it look very easy, but in actual terms most of those things are not easy. That's why I'm sharing with you how to do them, so that you too can be able to do them. So I'm just going to gradually go over these areas with my flow set to 16, and I'm just going to reveal the parts that I want to reveal, the parts I want to be light, right? And that's basically what I'm doing. Okay, so having done that, next thing you do is go to adjustment layer. Now click on solid color. Now this is where the real work begins, right? When you click on it, it comes like this. Don't panic, right? Select the color of your choice. This is the color I used. Now right click and click on create clipping mask. So what you just brought out now from your arsenal of tools or everything is just going to affect only the image as you're seeing now. So what you want to do is go to the blend mode, and you're going to change this to screen, just like this. Let me see. No, I'm going to use screen. Yes, this is giving me what I want. So when you're saying like don't panic, go to the mask, invert it, Ctrl I, and now you're going to take your brush and you're going to go over the edges and simply rub it in like this, right? Now since you are using a sensitive pressure brush, the more you press, the more of the light you create, so you need to be very, very careful. Now if you're a professional, you can use your Wacom tablets or your digital tablets for all of this, especially if you want to go deep into compositioning and apply light effect, a whole lot of light effect, and a whole lot, and do a whole lot of dodge and bonds, right? Good. So I'm just going to go, but for this tutorial I'm using a mouse just like you're using, so you need to take it very easy. So just go on to reveal where you want the light to be. Gradually, my flow is set to 16. Go over this region like this, you can see. and you need to be sensitive to and calculative to know where the light actually hits, right? So over this region, you can see I want to work here now, so I'm making it very small. Ctrl Z, just small like this. You don't have to make it big, right? I'm going to work on this region also. Light it up, light it up, light it up, light it up like this. If you make a mistake and you want to correct it, you can go back, revert the color to black, and clean it off, like just as I did now. Set it to white again to add some glows. That's too much. Ctrl Z. Just small like that. Too much. Ctrl Z. Just, you don't need to go too much, you don't need to go overboard. Okay, I'm just going to apply the same thing here. You can see I reduced my flow to 6 and I'm just doing one stroke painting alone. Just one stroke, right? So it's also good to also put that in mind. Okay, so we can even pass off as saying this is perfect and this is good, but then no, we're going to go over to brightness and contrast. The same thing you do to the solid color, clip it like this. Now when you clip it, increase the brightness just like this, or you can choose to reduce it, but in this case I'm going to leave it increased. I'm going to invert, Ctrl I, and I'm going to use my brush on the edge alone because that's where I want my brightness to be. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, we've applied brightness, which is this one here. The next thing you want to do is directly on top of that, create color balance, right? And of course, create clipping mask because it's going to be applied to just the image itself. So what you're going to do with this is, let me zoom out or zoom in. Go over to your midtones, right, and drag the slider to the yellow part. Just follow my lead and follow my settings like this. Go over to the shadows, of course, go over to the yellow, and for the highlights, go over to the yellow, which is -12, and add some red to it because you have that on our skin, right? So that's before and after. Okay, before and after, and the elephant in the room, before and after. You can see how much of a big difference that makes, right? Great. So with that selected now, that's the color fill that we applied. Right click and click blending option. Now this is to make this transition smoother. Let me put this aside. Hold down your Alt key while you drag this. If you don't hold the Alt key, it's not going to drag. So hold the Alt key and drag this. If you can look closely, you will see that it's beginning to change and the light is beginning to blend very well, right? So that is what you use to blend the lights after you've created the light effects. Okay, great. Okay, so having done that, I'm going over to my resource file and I'm going to bring in element 1, which is this. Drag, and of course, okay, there will be a problem. I'm going to go to the topmost layer. You can see why it's very important that you stay on the right layer. So stay on the topmost layer while you go over to bring that in. Very important. So click on this layer, go over to your resource file. Yes, please. Good. And click on element 1. Drag and drop inside like this, and voila, click enter. What you can then do here is just bring this down. Okay, I think I'll just move it up. Yes, please kindly go back up where you came from. Yes, please. Yes, please. Thank you. Good. So I'm just going to leave it there, right? Before, after. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm just going to reduce the opacity like this. You can use 50, but I'm going to use this 48, right? Very good. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to double click on this because it's a PSD file, guys. So double click on it, and it's going to open up in Photoshop in another tab. So I'm just going to be taking these things from there and I'm going to be bringing it to this place. Okay, just a few corrections that I want to do. So I'm going to go down to the first layers, and I'm going to play with the exposure. I'm going to reduce it furthermore, and not too much. Just making sure that that whole part, that region, is extremely darker than what you have here. Okay, so I'm going to create the exposure on this one too, and clip it. And I'm going to reduce it also here, so it's all dark and looking cozy and all of that, right? Good. So I'm going to go to the topmost layer, select these 3 of them and group everything. I'm going to name this all caps, like. Okay, so I'm going to throw in a couple of text here. So this is where I'm going to copy, and I'm just going to paste it there. So copy, and in my text tool selected, yes, I'm just going to drag and drop this to draw a text box, and copy and paste. Ctrl V to paste. Right. Okay, good. So finally I'm going to go over to color balance and I'm going to make this adjustment. So green +7, and this would be -4, and voila, we're good to go. So this is how I created this flyer in Photoshop. There's some couple of things I would have loved to add, but presumably when we start our full Photoshop series or in compositioning, we'll be able to touch all of those things, right? So this brings us to the end of this video. If you've not subscribed to my channel, kindly hit the subscribe button and turn on post notifications so you miss any of the videos I'll be dropping anytime from now. Ciao.